Would you now rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? Mark Benton won't be standing. He has a full cast on his right leg.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic which stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This is going to be a 2-hour meeting from 10 to 12. The same ground rules. We'll do 3 minutes on your comments. All the staff is here to answer your questions. I have something here I need to read to you. It's plan reviews for use by right applications. It's about 2 pages long. We do have copies of these available after the meeting. If we run out of copies, please stop by Monday during business hours and we'll get you a copy, but we have about 20 copies. With all reviews of construction plans in the town of Sunset Beach, the staff, planning board, board of adjustments, and applicants are required to follow the regulations adopted by the town council in the Unified Development Ordinance. An important item to note: it is illegal in North Carolina to consider race, gender, age, local versus national chain, owner-occupied or for rent, low income versus high income, or whether the project will be profitable or not. What is use by right application? A use by right or permitted use is a category of land use that is permitted in a zoning district. The application must meet all of the requirements of the UDO for that zoning district. A use listed by right in the UDO table of uses cannot be denied a permit if all local requirements of the town of Sunset Beach are met. There are no public notification requirements for this project, and public hearings are not required for any use by right project. The easiest way to explain a use by right is through the single-family home process. If the property is zoned for a single-family home and a single family is listed as a use by right in the table of uses, one may apply for a permit. By showing compliance with all the UDO regulations, setbacks, landscaping, stormwater, etc., the applicant will get to build the home without a public notification. A commercial or multifamily use by right works the same way, with additional approval required by the Technical Review Committee and the Planning Board and potentially federal and state agencies. What is the review process? When a project is first brought to the staff's attention, it is usually through an email, phone call, or via an office visit from an interested developer, surveyor, engineer, or real estate agent. This is not the application stage of the process. Typically, these meetings consist of general questions about zoning, about the review process of the community, and gathering any contact information for other permitting agencies and/or very general questions pertaining to a proposed project. Staffs in all communities take these calls and meetings all the time, with only a small percentage of potential applicants actually ever submitting plans or going through the formal approval process. Occasionally, a part of the due diligence of a project, a potential applicant will request verification of zoning rules, allowed uses, or other general items of the UDO through a letter provided by staff. Responses to these letters do not guarantee development rights. However, they do provide verification of the ordinance requirements and zoning rules on record at the town. The letter is written that must be met through the required plan review process by the town. Once an applicant decides a plan is ready for approval, they will submit the application, pay the fees, and provide site plans for a first review by the Technical Review Committee, or the TRC. What is a Technical Review Committee? The TRC consists of the UDO administrator, building inspector, town administrator, fire department, police department, and public works department. Other entities can be brought in as needed to review a plan based on the specific project. After the comments have been compiled by the TRC, they are forwarded to the applicant and/or representatives for corrections and changes as necessary. This is not their final review. The planning board next gets the plans for additional review of compliance with the ordinances and to ensure the review is complete with and that nothing is missed. The planning board will have 30 days to approve or deny the request. Per the adopted town ordinance, there is no review of a use by right project by the Sunset Beach Town Council. All site plans are reviewed for compliance with Article 5 of the UDO, which describe the specific items and articles that need to be met by the UDO. These requirements go from basic applicant information to specific requirements for landscaping, stormwater, architectural facades, lighting, pedestrian access, etc. The project must still meet a federal, state, and other local agency guidelines, which may include but is not limited to CAMA, Army Corps of Engineers, North Carolina Department of Environmental Quality, Brunswick County Utilities, Brunswick Electric, and any private covenants enforced by the homeowners or property owner associations, such as the roads within the property complex. The town requires the applicant to provide documentation that these other guidelines have been met. Per the UDO, if the site plan is found to meet all of the applicable regulations of the UDO, the planning board shall approve issuance of a zoning permit for the project. Denial of a use by right has been shown to be in compliance with the UDO will be turned over in a court of law, and the construction permits will be issued from the courts. The town staff, planning board, and the Board of Adjustments take their duties seriously to ensure that the town of Sunset Beach gets the best possible outcome with the UDO and in accordance with the powers granted to them by the town council and the state of North Carolina. In summary, a use by right refers to a property owner's use of property and structures in manners consistent with that which is listed in the UDO as permissible in the zoning district in which the property is located. Again, it is legal in North Carolina to consider race, gender, age, local versus national chain, owner occupied or for rent, low income versus high income, or whether the project will be profitable or not. If you have any questions or concern about any projects within the town of Sunset Beach, please contact the staff at Town Hall, and they will share and explain projects currently under review. Thank you. And with that, we'll take your first questions. Please state your name and your address when you address the podium. Yes, ma'am.
Carol Santavica, 9109 Forest Drive, Southwest, in Bonaparte's Retreat 2. I would like to speak to the upcoming penalties that are coming up for a vote on the beach rules and regulations. We might as well just put up a sign, please don't come to our beach. Every single year we change these rules. We have rules right now that I believe are not legal. If our little tent or canopy businesses were anything but mom and pop businesses, you'd be seeing a suit for restraint of trade. You can't stop people from doing business off the beach. You can't stop me from hiring someone, anybody that I want, to put a canopy up for me and take it down and manage it for me. You're putting the management of canopies in the hands of inexperienced people by requiring that the individual beachgoer put his own up and down and monitor it all day for winds, for this, for that, for whatever. What a pack of worms. You guys got to rethink that. Just put up a sign. You know, go to some other beaches that have no signs up except just leave the sand behind. We have a sign that's bigger than a man. We've got so many rules. Rethink that, please.
Thank you. The only comment I'll have on that is I agree with you 100% on the canopies. I get a call every morning on Saturday and Sunday with the complaints about not allowing the canopies. It's guaranteed. I'm getting a call every morning on Saturday or Sunday. I have yet to get a call saying that we're doing the right thing, but that's going to be open for discussion.
We've had this issue for the past 8 years, and every year we've put a Band-Aid on it. Last August, in the middle of the summer, I was not here, and the council revised the cabana rules. I think you have to go to Harvard Law School to understand them, to not allow vendors to erect the tents, the canopies. My personal feeling on that, I thought it was too spontaneous without doing our due diligence. I find that a vacation couple that comes here who are elderly or handicapped or what have you, being forced to erect their own canopy, a little concerning. There's no question that this has to be reviewed, and there's no question concerning all of the canopies that our beach patrol service has nearly tripled in cost during the past several years. It used to be around $42,000. Now it's about $111,000. And the problem is they spend half their time monitoring cabanas to make sure that the people who are erecting them are not vendors and so forth. The problem that we had with vendors, it's my understanding, they were putting up tents for rent, and they were taking a lot of space from the beach and using it as don't forget, the beach is public trust land, and they were using it to rent space. So they would get there in the morning, set up a line of tents, and no one would be in the tents. They would wait for people to come and then rent their tent in real time. Many people thought that was unfair because it was consuming a lot of space. I don't know the answer to this issue, but it hasn't yet been resolved. That's all I can tell you. But it's been going on for 8 years.
John?
This is not supposed to be a council debate. However, this is the first time that I've heard Mr. Serrato speak positively about cabanas on the beach. If he had supported cabanas on the beach, we would not have had this problem. He would have joined in with Mr. Nern and myself, and we would have approved keeping the rules that we had in 2017. He was part of the issue to put these current set of rules into place and raise concerns. The comments about the town beach patrol and the time they spend on cabanas has been demonstrated that those numbers are exaggerated, and the beach patrol spends a little bit of time, particularly on Saturday and Sunday, educating the new people on how to put up the tents, and after that it's pretty much a remedial, it's a maintenance issue through the rest of the week. And it's nowhere near half of the time the beach patrol spends. They spend their time looking at the beach.
Well,
And I'll leave it at that.
Well, can you address that? I mean, last year, you know how much time you spent on cabanas. Now, with the new rules in place, are you spending the same amount of time regulating cabanas? How many people from Ohio will take work a microphone?
I can probably speak loud enough. Last year, when the ordinance changed was prior to me getting here, I are working on, and the beach patrol folks that are out there this year, seasonal employees, part-time employees, we are doing a better job of capturing major, or more, I guess major is probably not a great term, but capturing incidents that take a little bit longer to handle. If it's like Councilman Corbett alluded to, Saturdays and Sundays, there's a new group of folks that are coming into town, and we have to do a little, some education about cabana ordinances and other ordinances. So those 2 days, I think, are more time is spent. Also why we created the cabana video and as an educational piece, and we've been sharing that Saturdays and Sundays. But we're, like I mentioned, we're capturing some more incidents or different documentation of incidents. And I have a big folder. Well, it's not big yet, but I think there's probably going to be a lot of different papers in that folder by the end of the summer, so it can give us a pathway, or I can bring this fall some recommendations of maybe things to look at for you all, and in reference to the cabanas.
Thank you, Paul.
Thanks, Chief.
Paul.
Yes, ma'am. Come on up, Karen.
Karen Joseph, 915 Sandpiper Bay Drive. It seems to me you have a solution in front of you. Mr. Serrato has changed his opinion. That's 3 votes. Go back to the rules of 2017, which were clear, which were easy, which lined the cabanas up on the beach, didn't get in anybody's way. And you know what? If somebody rents a cabana with a company, and the company puts it up at 7 in the morning, and the people don't use it until 1 o'clock, what difference does it make? They're paying for the cabana. Something occurred that they can't come until 1 o'clock. Carol Santavica is right. That sign has so many rules and regulations, nobody reads it. I hate to disappoint you, because I know how much money was spent on those signs. I've always been opposed to those signs. They're ridiculous. And they send a negative message to the entire community and all our visitors. So I would encourage you, at the next possible time, make a motion, go back to the 2017 rules. Everybody will be happy, and it will be less work for the Beach Patrol. You have a positive option. Grab it before you lose it. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen.
Mr. Mayor,
Paul.
Yes.
I'm not going to be a flip-flopper. I'm against the cabanas. Always have been. I've been to the beach multiple times this year. It's regulated properly. Most people do know how to do it. I'm sure there's 50% of people that like cabanas and 50% don't like the cabanas. But, looking at the beach, staying on the beach like I do sometimes, it's enjoyable to see the dunes in that cabanas. So there's less cabanas. As far as rules come up, Karen, your council put those rules up. Your council put those signs up, not this council. So I think we need to try this for a year, see how it works, and let Paul come back to us at the end of the year and say, Mark, it's not working. If my chief of the fire department tells me it's not working, then I will change my mind and go back to the old ways. But give it a shot. I don't think putting up 350 cabanas on 4th of July is the answer. So I'm going to tell you how I feel then, and this is how I feel now. Thank you.
Paul.
Go ahead, Charlie.
No rental company put cabanas up and had them up for rent. That was one of the many misleading things that people were against cabanas put out there. Scare tactics, not fair. Beach is first come, first served. I will say this. When we voted whether to ban commercial cabanas completely. There were a lot of complaints about the driving from the cabana vendors, breaking rules and whatnot. So I went over 3 separate occasions to the beach before 7 o'clock in the morning. And there was one vendor in particular that drove the wrong way drove the wrong way on one side of the street. He parked in the bike lane. He parked in driveways. And I felt, and I voted for the complete ban, but I felt I had no choice with what I had seen. And I'll be glad to revisit this. I get the same emails and calls that we all get. And it's hard to explain to people with small children or elderly people who need the shade and want to enjoy the beach and are unable to put those cabanas up themselves. So I'll be glad to revisit this.
Thank you, Charlie. Yes, ma'am.
I'm Carla Kirker. I live at 206 West Main on the island. I want to say thank you for getting rid of the cabanas. We can see our beach again. I think I don't know of any other beaches that allow cabanas, even Myrtle Beach. I used to live at Myrtle Beach. No one has all that lined up cabanas. I mean, our tides are getting higher. We go down there and there's nowhere to sit anymore. It's more crowded than Myrtle Beach, where I lived in southern Myrtle Beach. It's more crowded. You can't even find a place to sit. The reason I came, I've been a homeowner for 30 years. I've never felt the need to come to a meeting like this. Last year about this time, I made 3 calls to the town of Sunset Beach about a storm drain that was clogged on 29th Street. I kept being told that it was going to get cleaned. I knew it was jammed. And they kept telling me, oh yeah, we're going to do that tomorrow. We're going to do that next week. Well, they never did it. We got a torrential rainfall. I had 14 inches of water on the bottom level of my house, $10,000 worth of damage. I want to know if there is a set schedule of storm drain maintenance on the island. How it got to that point is just beyond me. I feel like no one really cares. People are all upset about these cabanas, and just basic needs are not being met on the island. That is just, it was negligence, and I had called and told them it was clogged 3 times. My second thing is I like the new LED light fixtures that are on the island. However, I don't think they have been tweaked to be aimed where they're supposed to be aimed. I have the one next to my house is aimed directly at my house, and my house is like a billboard at night. So I don't think that my house is dangerous. I think it should be pointed towards the road. That's the reason I'm here, and thank you very much.
Thank you.
Can we address her needs for the 29th Street?
Mr. Michaud was not here with us last year. Our former stormwater manager, Rich Baker, was, and I don't know if Dustin knows anything about 29th Street. I do know Public Works keeps a schedule, though, of the storm drains that they have to go out and check. My recommendation is come in and talk to both Mr. Michaud and Mr. Graham about the storm drain. Instead of a meeting, we'll be happy to sit down and talk to you about that. I can't speak for what our former director may or may not have said, since he's no longer with us. But we'll be more than happy to try to fix the storm drain problems moving forward. And there is a scheduled plan to do, I believe 29th Street's on the overhaul list, right? The whole street? 30th? Yeah, okay, so there will be some work in that area in general. And we can maybe look at expanding what that work entails. But just come in and sit down and meet with both of them. You can grab one of their cards before you leave today, and I'm sure they'll be happy to sit down and talk about it.
And also Dustin can help you with contacting Brunswick
Yeah.
Electric for adjusting that light.
Yep, BEMC's in charge of our streetlights as far as their installation, maintenance, and how they're set up. So Dustin would be more than happy to sit down and talk to them about that too, see if there's something we can do about that. You're not the first person that's brought that to our attention.
Mr. Mayor?
Go ahead, John.
If I could, I'd just like to add a clarification about which beaches allow cabanas in that and do not allow. Myrtle Beach does not allow cabanas. Ocean Isle Beach does not allow cabanas. Holden Beach, Oak Island, Caswell Dunes, Curry Beach, Carolina Beach, Wrightsville Beach, all permit cabanas in there. Our last mayor, Mayor Weiss, did a survey, and 32 of the 34 beaches from our location up to New Jersey permit cabanas.
Our beach is only 3.5 miles long. And we're trying to
But-
cram 10,000 people there.
But the point is that a lot of other beaches permit cabanas.
And
That's
much
the only way I
larger
can make
than
it.
Sunset
Yeah.
Beach, so much larger.
Does matter.
Yes, sir. Any other questions?
Right, in the second row.
Bob Evans, 805 North Shore. And first, I'd like to thank you all for giving your Saturday so we could have this opportunity to come speak with you. I had 3 quick questions. The first is, I would like to know whether there's any possibility that we could look into possibly putting some speed bumps on the west side of North Shore, where the cars come over the little rise at 33rd Street. They really do exceed the speed limit constantly. And there are a lot of children, particularly when renters are here. And I know there are some on the other side of North Shore. I just want to know if it could possibly looked at for the west end. That's question number 1. Second question is, I would like to propose to see if we could look into a change in the hours that dogs are allowed on the beach. Most beaches, it's 9 to 5, and here it's 8 to 6. And I'm not sure why we can't have a 9 to 5 limit on the dog access to the beach. And as an alternative, I'd also like to know why we couldn't just have access down 40th Street onto Bird Island at any hour of the day, because it's not Sunset Beach. I mean, that's, it's state and federal property. Finally, the last question it pertains a little bit to the cabanas. Last year I was told that we have a little tiny pop-up tent that my infant grandchild sleeps in. And occasionally my daughter will cram herself in there if she has to breastfeed. And we were told that could be treated like a umbrella. And this year we're told it's treated like a cabana. This thing folds up to about this size. I think that's really an imposition and quite kind of problematic. I really don't want to put the child all the way back in the dunes where it's significantly hotter than closer down to the water. And I just think that's enforcement above and beyond the intent of what you all had intended with the cabana ban. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bob.
Speed bumps.
Speed bumps. Chief?
I don't know that I'm the right person to talk about speed bumps, only because I have no authority to say, yeah, let's put them there. I mean, I guess I could make a recommendation, but I know that we have complaints of speeding everywhere in Sunset Beach, not just North Shore Drive. There's probably not a street that I haven't had much of a request for extra patrols, for the speed sign, for some sort of traffic calming. 6th Street stands out more than anything on the island in particular. I know that Dustin and I have spent a considerable amount of time there looking at different things, from signage to a 3-way stop to the request for speed bumps. In my former jurisdiction, we had 1 street in the entire town that had speed bumps. And when that happened, everybody wanted speed bumps. What I found, my experience with speed bumps are that some people will pay attention to them. Some people want to see how fast they can crest them. So even though there's those devices on the roadway, from one speed hump to the other, I'm sure you've seen it on 17 in areas where it's stop and go traffic. how quickly can the car beside you get from one red light to the next red light? Similar with speed bumps. My recommendation at this time would be that we just continue to do what we're doing. Monitor the traffic, answer calls for complaints that folks have when they come to, or when they observe somebody on North Shore Drive or anywhere in Sunset Beach that is exceeding the speed limit in their estimation. Let us know a make, model, description of the vehicle, description of the driver. If they're here for a week, it's likely every time they go down that street, they're going to speed. And if we know what we're looking for and know a time of day we're looking for, we can focus our patrols there. As far as my recommendation, whether or not to put speed bumps anywhere in Sunset Beach at this time, based on my experience with them and what we're able to do from an enforcement standpoint, I don't feel that that's warranted at this time.
Thank you, Chief.
You want to address the baby pop-up tent, please, Chief?
Yeah, I can speak briefly on it. As the ordinances currently states, the baby pop-up tents don't have to follow the same thing. Now, there's no specific size in the ordinance of a baby pop-up tent. So that gets a little, the area's a bit gray. So what I did when I got here and started evaluating this and looking at some of the challenges from last year was specifically what were the challenges related to baby pop-up tents and or infant pop-up tents is, I think, specifically what it says in the ordinance. So there was challenges last summer where there was bigger tents, cabanas, and some folks tried to say if they had an infant under any size cabana, from 12 by 12 all the way down to one of the little ones that you're suggesting, it was an infant pop-up tent. So that would give them free reign to put the tent wherever on the beach strand. So what I started looking at, and I'm a paramedic, I've been in EMS and medical services, and when I think of an infant, I come back to pediatric advanced life support. So pediatric advanced life support, and the documentation or documents here says an infant 2 and under. So I started pulling some of this data together, and what we taught Beach Patrol this summer was that the infant pop-up tents, and I think one of the little ones that you're talking to probably follows or meets that within an infant 2 or under, give or take. You know, is it a child napping? Is it an infant around that 2-year or under mark? One of the other challenges that we faced was some of the tents that were a little bit bigger, and then there was 5, 6, 8-year-olds and the mom in the tent. So this year we tried to establish with Beach Patrol staff an infant pop-up tent's good wherever if there's an infant in it. If it starts having other kids of varying ages or mothers in there, it's not an infant pop-up tent at that point. Now, I think the exception to the rule is a mother that's partially in there, breastfeeding, changing a diaper, taking care of the kid, that's okay. So Beach Patrol has a little bit of leniency to determine that. So without clear direction in the ordinance, that's kind of my mindset and what direction we've given Beach Patrol to prevent a big cabana, big tent of any sort from being in front of somebody and blocking their water view or whatnot, to try to keep the bigger tents at the back along the dune line. So,
Thank you, Chief.
Yeah.
Bob, also about the dogs, I'm a dog owner, and I agree with your suggestion from 9 to 5. Beach Patrol ends at 5:30, so technically, you go there at 5:30, there's nobody protecting the rules anyway. So that's something I will put on the agenda in the next couple of weeks to see if we can change that from 9 to 5.
What time's the Beach Patrol end?
7 o'clock.
7 o'clock now.
and we have,
Use your mic, please.
we'll have staff on the Strand until 7 PM, and then typically several nights a week or as needed, we have people making a trip up and down for anything left over. Chairs, tents, cabanas, holes, taking care of some of that stuff in the after 7 PM. So they could be out there until 9 o'clock, depending on what's going on.
Thank you, Chief.
Yes, sir.
I'd like to ask the
Come up to the mic.
Joseph Santavica, 9109 Forest Drive, Sunset Beach. Are you in charge, is the fire department exclusively in charge of the beach patrol?
Yes.
Okay. I've heard numbers at recent meetings on the budget saying that you've tripled the cost of the beach patrol. I got a couple questions that I think would be important to explain to the public. Bottom line, why has it quote-unquote tripled?
Joe,
Which I doubt.
please use the mic.
Oh, okay. Was the length of time from 7 to 7 when the beach patrol is out there, did you select those times or were those mandated by council?
Microphone.
So there's different, the directive from the administrator through council has been kind of established as there's different time frames. Early, I can read it right off of here from my report from in December, but personnel, at least 2 personnel on the beach from May 1st to June 16th and August 20th to September 9th. In between those times, so June 17th through August 20th, more people on the beach. Starting at 7 a.m. To 7 p.m., yes, but we've also looked at getting at least 1 person out there by 6:30 because that gets on the front end of people trying to, helping people understand cabanas, that sort of thing, early. So I'm an early bird, so there's a couple other of the seasonal staff that get out there, and that's been working a little bit well. As far as your you stated beach patrol tripling in cost, I think is what you said. I'm gonna have to, Tara, do you have those numbers in front of you? I do not, but there has been an increase. I'm not sure if it's triple.
Well, that's the next question then. Given it sounds like you've had expanded hours, you got expanded people going out there, is that the sole justification for this increase from, what's the number, Rich? 40,000 to 110,000?
Yeah, excuse me. Several years ago it was 42,000, and now it has increased to 111.
What
But
was
that's
it?
from the town records.
What was it last year? What was the,
I'll have to defer to Tara for specific numbers. I don't have it in front of me, but part of the number has increased as council's supported and approved the deputy chief of beach patrol and community risk reduction. So it's a partial split with where the funding comes from. That, and it's multifaceted. I have my recommendation that I put in the budget proposal for that position. I can read it. I can give you a copy of it if you haven't seen it.
I have the numbers for you if you want that.
yeah.
So in fiscal year 17-18, the actual expenses were 66,300 for beach patrol, like the salaries and what was associated with the salaries. For 18-19, it was 66,900, and for 19-20, it's 79,000.
That doesn't
That's
sound like the
that's
figure he just
personnel.
told us.
That's just personnel, right?
That's personnel
personnel.
costs.
Okay, not
It's not
the
equipment.
additional equipment, and new
Well,
equipment and
in
stuff
the
like
rest
that.
of the budget, it's not all beach patrol, it's everything tourism related, so it's not specific to that. But specific to beach patrol is personnel, and those are the numbers for that.
Okay, all right. So I can get accurate figures from you if
Yeah, I
need
have
them.
all the budget. and-
Okay, as opposed to idle statements that it's tripled. Is that right?
In fiscal year 15 or 16, it was $42,000, and that's with the equipment that was purchased and the labor cost. Now it's $111,000. That was on the budget figure.
She's saying
That's all.
79.
Well, in 50,
She
in-
said that was only personnel.
right.
Oh, but sounds like you got a lot more personnel this year than you did in 1915, or in 2015. All right, that's good enough for me.
Thank you, Joe.
We do have a lot more people on the beach.
Yes, ma'am.
You can pull it down.
I'm Carol Church. Can you hear me?
Yes.
515 Shoreline Drive, East. I have 3 thank yous and 1 concern. So I'll start with my thank yous. I really appreciate the fact that you have delineated parking on Main Street on the island. It makes it easier for all of us who want or need to park there and makes our access to the beach easier. Over the years, it's had been pretty difficult to figure out for some people, and there were problems with driveways extending beyond what they're supposed to under the code. We've made an attempt to fix this, and I appreciate it. To the city and Public Works and Dustin Graham, and especially to Cindy Stevenson, who's in Public Works, I have thank you for their cooperation and your cooperation with my special needs regarding mosquito spraying. So I've been a resident here for 24 years. I've always had a good working relationship with the city regarding this, and it is absolutely necessary for my health that I avoid pesticides and mosquito spray. And the communication has been really good recently with my being able to be here some on weekends and at other times after you begin the spraying, which is usually in July and runs through October and sometimes November, depending on the weather and the rain. During that time, I have to leave Sunset Beach and can only come home on weekends or occasionally other times by special arrangement with the Public Works Department. I don't even know if all of you are aware of this, but it's been a medical necessity for me for many years, and I appreciate the cooperation and protecting my health. My third thank you is regards the property next door to me. There are a lot of problems with that property. It's going to also be my concern. But one of the things has been addressed, I hope adequately, by John Michaud, the new stormwater management director, and Dustin in Public Works, as they did clear out a ditch which had become clogged and was a terrible mosquito breeding ground. I hope that solves the problem. If not, I'm sure they'll take the next step. So my concern today is the house next door to me, 513 Shoreline Drive East. No one has lived there probably in at least 10 years, and before that it was a second home and it was well maintained. Since then, it has been a continuing problem that's gotten worse over the years. it is hard for me to even get the grass mowed, and we do have an ordinance to address that, and I do appeal to you to please get that grass cut. As I understand it, the ordinance is that when the grass is 1 foot tall, you will accept complaints and requests to do something about it. So I did that last year, and I've done that this year. Last year, I made my request in June. The property was not mowed till August or September. So this year, I made my request in April. It has been 2 months. The property has not been mowed. When I made my request, the grass was 1 foot tall. It's now 4 feet tall, and there are 3 foot tall tree seedlings growing. So either this ordinance is not adequate, or it is not being carried out efficiently. It's my understanding that the person who's responsible for this is to send the property owner a letter requesting they get it mowed, and if they have 30 days to do it. And if they do not do it, then the city is to mow it and bill the person. That should not take 2 months. So, the way that is written is fair to a property owner who's responsible and normally keeps up his property and just got slack. But it does not address the problems of property owners who are persistently in violation of code and basically are persistent problems. So I don't know if we have anything to address that. But this property is basically abandoned. No one has lived there. It was in foreclosure. The person who bought it was supposed to fix it up and either live in it or flip it. He has done neither. There is a tree growing onto the front porch. There are vines hanging all over the house. The soffits are falling off. The shingles are falling off. And I would suggest, if we don't have one, that we have an ordinance to address these kinds of properties that are persistently a problem. And that it doesn't fall on me or a neighbor to start the process of getting the grass mowed, but that you will have a list of these properties and you get on to the owners at the first of every year and say you're going to clean up the property and keep it clean, or you're going to be fined thus and so. And so I don't have to go through half the year with a snake-infested mess next door that's 4 feet tall. I'm a gardener, and I'm a naturalist, but I am mortified of snakes. And I have a beautiful flower garden that's right on the border of this property. The man who mows my grass cuts me a swath behind my flower garden so I can go back there and water my flowers and weed them without meeting up with a snake in grass that's almost as tall as I am. So this is something that you really do need to get serious about, probably from 2 standpoints. Better enforcement of the existing regulation and a regulation to prevent ongoing problems like this. I have a picture of this property in my phone, but since I'm really not technical savvy, I failed to email it to y'all, but I want you to see it.
Carol, I've seen it.
But if I can real
what
quick.
do we do?
This is half the reason why we've added the position of the code enforcement animal control officer, is to nip these kind of things early on in the process, to be more proactive as opposed to reactive. And that's really a big part of the base of this new position, is to hit properties like
Yeah,
this.
that's fine, but what can we do now?
Well, as I understand it, is it Stanley? You and Stanley already, yeah, Todd and Stan.
I've already.
Yeah, they've already sent code enforcement letters again. But the standard practice is as you give them 30 days, but you don't give them 30 days from the day you send the letter. You give them 30 days with a reasonable 10-day period for first-class mail to be delivered.
Have we sent any letters yet?
Letters are going, we have not sent a letter yet. We have made contact, and I've been going back, communicating back and forth with Mr. Ashraf, Mehdi, and his brother, I can't remember how to pronounce, but anyway, the Mehdi brothers, who they own multiple properties between here and Georgia. I gave them till the end of this weekend because they were supposed to be here Thursday to mow the grass. Obviously, they did not show up. So I told them basically if it's not done by the end of this weekend, letters will be going out for notice of violation and fines Monday morning.
When does the town, for example, cut the grass and then bill the owner?
We won't do that until they've at least ignored us for 60 days.
Okay.
We still have to give them a reasonable time period to actually come in and do the work.
Yeah.
Now, as far as repeat offenders, there is a state law that regards repeat offenders. They have to have 3 notices of violation within 1 year before you can institute that for the next year and go ahead and do a preemptive mailing and enforcement action. And that's another thing. That's a state law, so we can institute that anytime. But, that's, like I said, the new position is going to be at the forefront of handling a lot of that for us moving forward.
I would really appreciate your handling this in a way that is done more effectively and more efficiently. I mean, when I start calling and asking for help on this on April 15th and June 15th, none of my calls have been returned. And even when I've asked for messages, left messages to please return my calls, and nothing has happened on the property, it's quite frustrating.
Ma'am.
And like I said, last year, I began the process in June, and it wasn't mowed till August or September.
If you'll report to me who you've been calling, I'll be more than happy to take a look into that for you.
I'll be glad to. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
My name is Susan Buckley. I live at 421 2nd Street on the island, and I've got a similar issue that what she had is we've got 2 vacant lots beside of us. I don't think they've been mowed in 2 years. And we haven't reported them in 2 years. We reported them several years ago, and they did make the owner come. But there's a tree that's been, with the storm damage has fallen down, and a lot of people are taking their animals in there to use the bathroom. So we just wanted to report that as well. And so I think it's at 419 and 417 2nd Street. The second item I wanted to bring up is that there's also a house, a few houses down from us, that it looks like they've taken their furniture out of their house. Like they may have done a remodeling, and they've just put it underneath the house. The yard hasn't been mowed. It just looks like it's been left there. So I didn't know if there's something we can do, or if I need to be reporting that in some manner. So we wanted to ask that question. And then my last thing is just to thank you for giving us a new boardwalk. Okay.
The Public Works Department, they handle the vacant properties. We'll make sure I know they did a recent drive around, last week? All right, so they compiled their list as they do their drive around. I'll make sure there's 2 properties on that list if they violate the 18-inch height. As far as the house that may have stuff under it, if stuff's under a house, it's technically stored. I know that it doesn't look good, but it's under the house, and it's considered storage. The yard and everything, we'd be more than happy to go out and take a look at, though. And if there's anything that's causing a pest problem, we can look at that as well. But just having items under a house, our ordinances can't address that.
We did have mice
Okay.
from the empty lot.
Gotcha. Oh, do you know the address of the house?
The house is probably,
I think it's 425.
Okay. Thank you.
Towards the ocean.
Right, thank you.
Is there anything else? Yes, sir. Fred.
Fred Thorne, 1790-4 Queen Anne Street. The town has a public access TV station, I believe it's Channel 99, and there's a lot of old information out there, has not been updated in quite some time. I'd I don't know how many people watch that channel. I know it is sort of restricted to the town of Sunset Beach, but I would also imagine our visitors might be looking at that during the summer to find out what's going on in town. I know some of the department heads are no longer with the town. I've also noticed that last year's concert schedule is out there. That's not doing anybody any good, just causing confusion in the town. So I'd recommend looking at that and trying to keep it up to date. Thank you.
Thank you for,
And
we do that.
and we're aware of that. We had some technical issues when we swapped computers last year, and we didn't have the access to get into Channel 99, but that's since been fixed with ATMC this last week before. Oh, they're still having problems on their end? Okay. It's a work in progress with ATMC and us. Part of the problem is, like I said, we changed out computers, and no one knew to swap over the software. But we're working on it.
Is there anything else? John?
I move we close the meeting.
All questions have been answered?
Thank you very much.
Meeting's closed. Thank you.